Welcome to the Going Rogue with Wes Whitlock podcast. All right, man. Hey, today is a special day, man, because I have Jeff Gonzales here, man. We've already been having a good time.
That's true.
Jeff showed up here looking sexy as always, so it got my day going in the right direction, seeing him come in. And I'm excited to have you here, man. I've known Jeff for a while now. Through the industry, and I think we met at SHOT Show years back.
Oh my God, yeah.
Yeah,
it was a long time ago.
Way back, and just from there, kind of just developed a relationship as friends. And he lives here in Austin, Texas, man, which is cool. A lot of people think Austin's full of what have yous, but there's a lot of dudes out here, man. It's kind of cool that they're connecting out here. And like the other week, we had a great workout.
Oh my God, that was so awesome.
Hanging out with you and Tim and those guys. So that was fun, man. But dude, thanks for coming. This is, like I said, this is all new to me. A lot of folks have been asking about it, and it's fun. And it's been good for me to be able to sit down. The only time we ever get together is at places like SHOT Show. We say, man, we're back, but we were always busy and this, that, and the other. So this forces us to get together, and it's always a good thing. So, dude, thank you, brother, for coming, man. I'm super excited to have you.
Well, I mean, we were chatting a little bit. Like, I can remember when you first moved into this building, and it was so awesome because I literally live like a stone's throw from here, and I was so excited to see you open up shop and watch you kick ass in the industry and kind of be able to kind of like, I know that guy. I've been watching him kick ass. So, being able to come out onto the podcast is awesome. I mean, I love doing podcasts for a lot of reasons. I think the biggest one is that it's the last form of like storytelling. We're in such a digital age that it's like, it's a picture or it's, 240 characters or whatever the case might be. So we don't have a chance anymore really to sit down and have these like good stories. Like we were talking about in the very beginning, like our school, kind of like our school, I wouldn't call it misbehavior.
Distractions from what we should have really been doing.
Yeah, exactly.
No, you hit it right on the head, man. And I'm the same way. We get busy. We get, it pulls us. This is good because we got to put our phones away, put them down, and kind of change your mind and kind of change. It's like being at the range or shooting. When you're shooting, your front sight trigger, you're in that area. You're not really thinking about anything else. So it's kind of cool to be able to sit down and like you said, this is a lost deal, man. Dudes don't get together and spend time together and just talk about what it is that they're doing and just kind of catching up on things.
Well, the other thing too about that I find to be really nice about podcasts is they're audio. I mean, they are video in some respects, but they're audio based for the most part. So they have a lot of value in the sense that you can, like, when I commute long distances, I can sit there and pull up a podcast and listen in on. You name a subject and there's a podcast.
Yep.
Genre for it. It's like it's awesome in a sense, and it's like. It's also overwhelming. It's like I got like a laundry list of all these podcasts that I'm supposed to be listening to and watching, and I'm like, there's not enough time in the day.
Yeah, I get the same way when there's too many options with stuff that are all good. There's so much. I just kind of shut myself off and don't do any of them. You know. But I'm the same way. Traveling is when I usually put one on. I just finally got to listen to the University of Badassery with Pat and CJ. I love what they're doing, and I learned a lot of stuff that I didn't know about both of them. I know both of them pretty well, so it's kind of cool. You learn something new, and you kind of take away. I'm like you, man, and a lot of the other guys. It's time and value, man. It's like if I'm going to listen to something or do something, I want it to bring some kind of value to me in my life, and a lot of them they do, even subconsciously. Like, man, that motivated me to sit down and even to do this. Like I've been talking about this for a while, and I'm busy and this, that, and the other. I got to get the equipment, and I don't know how to set all this stuff up, man. And start doing a little research and then listen to some other podcasts that inspires. Like, you know what, dude, I just need to get one going, and I got awesome friends, man. I'm like, dude, I have really cool friends that I would love to have on here, man, and it's been really cool.
Well, I think the thing that I like most about the podcast, particularly when I know people that are doing them, is that like you said it earlier, like you learned something about Pat that you've known Pat forever, and like there's this certain kind of setting. Again, it's that storytelling composite that opens up a lot of other subjects that you don't really hear about. And like I'm like you in the sense, like I've gotten to a point in my life where, you know, I value my time. You can't buy that back, you know. And I look back at my life and I realize, wow, I wasted a lot of time in some cases. And so I'm very, very stingy with my time these days. Yep. So when I'm like sitting down to listen to a podcast, it's got to bring value to me somehow. And I've been pretty lucky. I haven't, you know, it's like when you sit down and watch a movie and you realize that was a dumb movie, right. And I just wasted an hour and a half of my life watching this movie. So I try not to make those mistakes with the podcast. And so far, man, I mean, there's so many good dudes out there doing podcasts, and they're bringing value to everybody in some way, shape, or form. Yeah. You just got to be willing to like take a step back and say, all right, well, what can I learn from this? Yeah, absolutely, dude, absolutely, man. And also, like, when it comes to guys like you or people that know you through social media or whatever, what do they think about? Think of Navy SEAL, shooting, guns, which is great. And we're going to get into some of that. Yeah. But there's also things that they don't know about you, man, like that. I don't know, maybe you play the harp or something. You know, I don't know. There's probably something. I just learned you're a great artist, you know, obviously. You got straight A's in school, so. Yeah. Well, you know, I guess to let everybody in on kind of like what we were talking about, the artwork, the sketch work that you did for this, first of all, is so badass. I mean, well, and I can't take credit for that. Like the idea was there. Yeah. I'm like you, man. Yeah. I'll sketch a lot because I love to sketch. I'm just not that good at art. But I love it. I'll try, and I you know, once in a while do something okay. But you know, that for this project that we're working on, you know, I had a buddy of mine, Joey. Nobody, he goes by Nobody. He says he's a nobody. He's a tattoo artist out in Virginia Beach. Yeah. He does a lot of work for a lot of different guys and just awesome artist. So when we were talking about this, I'm like, you know, and some guys you get to know well and they know what you're into and they know you as well. They can kind of go. I don't have to tell him anything. I'm like, bro, I need this of Jeff or whoever, and he's like, got it. You know, I love guys like that just get shit done, bro. Well, what I was laughing at was when I saw that first rendering, it had that smirk. Yeah. You know, that I love. I walk around with a smirk a lot of times, and I was really surprised. You always have that. You always have that good energy. You know, which is great, man. I hate those negative Nancys and fucking frowny Freds and shit. You know, like I was like so impressed that's how that was the kind of like imagery. So captured it well. He did. Yep. I mean, he nailed it. I was like, damn. And so we were laughing because like I have very poor sketching skills, very poor. And when I was in sniper school, I couldn't even draw like a square building. You know, it was terrible. Like I was on the fringe of being able to just pass that evolution. And then I was laughing because we go all the way back to like elementary school. We're sitting there in elementary school, and I'm sure about 500,000 other kids at that time period, we couldn't sit still. We couldn't like focus. We couldn't do all that stuff. We now know why, but back then it was just whatever. And I can remember sitting there and drawing these sketches, like these war images, like, and they would take sometimes like 3 sheets of paper, like it would just like continue on, and you know there'd be airplanes and tanks and little stick figure guys. that was the extent of my art career ended then. Right then, that was as far as my art career ever got. No, it's so funny you say that. I bet there's a lot of guys on here that also were doing the same shit. You know, like when you said that, I was laughing because I same thing. I'd go to math class or whatever, and I was that kid that was like, dude, I had problems in school, man. So I would just zone out and draw stuff. Yeah. And I had one. It was the characters were like, it's called like Flower Wars or something. Basically, these dudes had plant heads, like big sunflower, but they had, you know, machine guns and RPGs, and they had these tanks that would go underground, and you know, they had these battles, and I'd draw all these things out and just kind of escape from what I should have been doing. I could so relate. Yeah, I bet there's a lot of dudes probably did the same stuff. Like, dude, you did that, man. Well, you know, I mean, one of the things too that like looking back at it, what I can value from that is the imagination, right? And letting, because that's one of the most, I think, like that imagination is the fuel source behind passion. Right.
And it makes you who you are.
It is.
Truly
It totally
are,
does.
you know?
Because when you have the ability to think outside of the lines, to step outside of those lines, and actually imagine things, and I mean that's where we are right now as entrepreneurs. We had to imagine what our future was going to be,
right?
And we had to create that future through our own blood, sweat, and tears.
Yep.
But without that imagination to see that future vision, it wouldn't have happened.
Wouldn't happen.
Not at all.
And that's really what this podcast is about, is going rogue. It's like, what is it? When was it in your life, or when did you always know that you kind of going your own path? Like you did have that, even you not know it's there, but there was something inside you that said, man, everybody's going this way.
Yeah.
Dude, you became a SEAL. You've started businesses. You've been involved with a lot of stuff that you did on your own. Nobody pushed you. The school didn't push you.
Yeah.
So it's cool that you say that, man. And I think there's a lot of guys, even that come from things that we're into and in the military and stuff like that, and that type of mindset. Those kids were probably all doing that kind of stuff as well. They're a little bit. There was something different about them. Maybe sitting there, and it's hard for me to sit there and. So we could take our imagination and create battles and all this stuff, and then later on, you're ended up in places like that.
Yes, so true. Well, it's so funny because I can remember almost exactly when I realized that college life was not for me. Like, I was a senior, and I was doing really. I mean, academically, I was getting by, but
where'd you grow up again?
Here in Texas, Central, down in San Antonio.
Okay, right on, dude. Yeah.
So
Texas boy.
Yeah. So when I swam and played water polo, and I was very good at that, and good enough to potentially look at a scholarship. And I went to visit a school and kind of like go and see if this was like what I wanted to do. And I got there, and like all I was interested in was what's the sports package going to look like for me? Like I just want to know, what am I going to be doing? Because that's like the only reason why I'm really coming here. And they were like, oh, well, you're going to do this, you're going to do this. And then as soon and we went there, and that was the first thing that I wanted to do. I didn't want to go see the campus. I didn't want to go see all of the other shit that was on, that was involved with the school. I just wanted to go and see the sports program and see how I was going to, because to me, that the only reason why I was going to be able to stomach going to college was the sports.
Doing what you love.
Yeah, exactly. That was the only reason why. And like once I got to the academic side of the house, I sat down. I don't remember who. It was like some counselor or somebody that kind of like facilitates the process of you going through the campus and whatnot. And I'm like, we got in the car, and I was like, yeah, this is.
The more they talk, the more you're like,
that's it.
I don't know, man.
You should have cut while you were ahead. Like, just introduce yourself, and that's about it. And I probably could, But then I look at it, and like that was probably one of the best decisions that I made, even though I didn't realize it at the time.
Right.
Like I felt like I was letting my parents down, that they wanted me to go to college because I was the oldest one in our family, and both my mom and dad hadn't gone to college, so it was like the first opportunity.
Yep.
And I was like, there's a little bit of pressure per, as per what you might expect. And I was like, yeah, no, not going to work. Yeah. So
as you're driving home, you saw the Navy recruiting office?
No, I mean, I actually had, that story happened a little bit sooner. Like I started researching, like, you go in high school, you go to the career counselor, and you do all those tests that figure out what is, what are you going to do, or what should you do? And like every one of them had something like, park ranger or firefighter or something like that. And I'm like, okay, all right. And so like I started looking into the military about that time. Mm-hmm. And I was fascinated with, the special operations community as a whole. And I hadn't really like put my finger exactly on where I wanted to go. I just knew that I wanted to go within the special operations community. And, I researched, and at the time there was no internet, and I laugh because, when I tell people, like, there was a time when the internet didn't exist, they're all like, what? Like, yeah, dude, you had to actually do shit, manually,
I tell people that all the time, and we get a lot of young kids that come in here, and I want to join the Marines, or you probably get the messages too. I want to do.
Yeah.
Back then, you would read old Vietnam books, or, you'd. Maybe your recruiter had some paperwork that you could look at. I remember learning my general orders before I went because I wanted to go there prepared.
Yeah.
But there was no internet. I didn't know what it was, so I had to finagle information.
What's so funny is like when I went to the recruiter, like I did the same thing. I went and I read books about the Vietnam era kind of guys, and there was so much at that time period, and the ones that I was most enamored with were the SEALs, the transition from UDT to SEAL at that time period. And when I went to the Navy recruiter and I asked to talk to him about at the time it was called the Dive Fair program, and I wanted to go into Spec War, he was like, well, and I'm like, well, that's what I want to do. And I asked, do you have any literature that I can read? And he pulled out like a single sheet of paper, like that sheet of paper right there, and it only had material on the front, so it wasn't even two-sided. And he's like, here's what I got, and I was like, okay, very cool. This is the information that the United States Navy has about one of its programs. That's it. It's just one single leaflet page. Right. That was it. And it wasn't even full. It didn't even go all the way to the bottom. Yeah. And it just at that point I was like, okay. And that's when I started researching it on my own. And I tell people this, like in my senior year, when I swam, our school district had its own pool, its own swimming pool, and it was an Olympic graded pool kind of thing. It was a really nice pool. And each high school had a head coach that reported to the pool coach, like the guy that was in charge of the actual pool. And he was a really good dude. And I remember one year, I think it was towards the end of my senior year, he comes up to me and he's like, hey, I want to talk to you about something. And I was like, okay, I think you would do well at a sporting event called a pentathlon. And I was like, I have no idea what that is. And he went on to explain what it was, and San Antonio was headquarters to the United States Pentathlon Association, so that's where they were headquartered. And one day, instead of practice, we went together to go in and check this place out, and that's where I actually met 2 active duty SEALs. They were assigned to that headquarters building, if you will, to participate in the modern pentathlon. They were training for it, and wow. So it was really cool. And I walked into the old buildings that had, like, they were all cinder block gray walls, and they had the gray desks. It was very, very neutral. Right. So I remember I walked into this office, and their tables were like this, and they looked at one another. And I walked in, and the coach introduced me. The head coach for the pentathlon introduced me, and they just were there, and they stood up, and they were in their uniform, and they just were like.
Yeah, like gods. You're like,
yeah, I was like,
I want to be that.
Yeah, exactly. And so, like, it was funny because after that, I was like, okay, I know where I want to go, and I put all the pieces on the board to do that. And I went.
Isn't it? And not to cut you off.
No.
But isn't that so cool? There's at some point happens in your life where, when you're at that age, or sometimes later or sooner, that you happen to, that guy saw you and said, man, this kid's got something. Yeah. And you were invited to participate in this, and then you met these guys, and that one day probably changed everything for you.
It definitely solidified where I wanted to go. Like, that was like there was a couple of options on the table, but that was it. And I remember as soon as that was done, I went and I competed at the nationals, junior nationals, and I did really well. And I came back from junior nationals. And I remember I'm sitting at the dinner table with my folks, and I have a younger sister, and I was sitting there with the family, and I just kind of announced to everybody at the dinner table, hey, next week I'm leaving for boot camp. Because I hadn't talked to when I joined the Navy, I was underage, so I had to go into the delayed entry program. Mm-hmm. So I didn't need my parents' permission to do that. And then once I finished with nationals, I have a summer birthday, so my birthday was a couple weeks ago. So when I turned 18, I just signed the paper on my own, and boom, I was gone. Wow. So, I was kind of like, as soon as I came back from nationals, because when I was training for nationals during the summer, it was a 9-to-5 job. I mean, I went to a facility and trained every day from the morning till the evening. Then I'd come home, have dinner with my family, pass out, and get up and do the same thing again. And that was my training season. So it was nice in the sense that when I left for the Navy, I was probably in some of the best shape that I could have ever been in. Yeah. But my parents didn't see me at all during that summertime. And when I came back and nationals was over, and there was a good week of just recuperating from it, and then one day at the dinner table, just threw it out there. By the way,
I'm gonna be gone for a while.
See ya. So that was.
Were they supportive? Or they?
Oh, they were very. I mean, my mom. I feel so bad. I have aged that woman something fierce. Something fierce. She's an angel. There's no doubt about it. And my dad was really cool about it. I know it broke him up to see me leave. Like he told me, he's like, when you left, when the recruiter came to pick you up in the morning, it was like dark 30, and he walked me out the door. He was like, you walked out, you said goodbye, you turned around, you walked away, and you never looked back. And that was the last I saw of you for a long time. Yep. Because once I joined the Navy, it was boom, 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 boom. Yep. And my parents, it was so funny story, side story on this. An old girlfriend came over to my house. I was already in the Navy doing things. Came over to the house and knocked on the door, and my mom answered. She goes, "Mrs. Gonzales, do you know where Jeff is?" And I would periodically tell my mom and dad where I was going, but most of the time it was just false information.
Right.
So I told my mom that I was in California at a jump trip. Yeah, I'm going out to California. Gonna be out there for about 4 weeks doing some jumping. And she was like, "Oh, okay, we'll have a good time." It was actually, I was already pre-deployed down to Panama for the invasion, and we had our little skirmish, if you will. And so it wasn't me, but it was somebody that looked like me.
Oh, geez.
And
like on the news or on a paper.
Exactly. It was on the news. It was on ABC News, like Nightline or whatever, invasion of Panama, and they do all these clips and stuff. And the girl thought she saw me. I never saw the clip, so I don't know, but I'm pretty sure that I avoided cameras like the plague back then. Yeah. And so
you're too busy with that 60, probably.
I can run that pig pretty good. I am pretty happy about that.
I've seen some cool footage from Panama.
Yeah. All of our injured guys were taken down to Brooks Army Medical Center, which is there in San Antonio. And so when my parents found out that those were SEALs, and that they were very supportive, so my mom goes down there with my dad, and they go into all the rooms where all the hurt team guys are, and my mom is talking, and she's saying, "Oh, we're so happy to see that you're doing okay, and my son is stationed with SEAL Team 4, and we were just really worried." And
oh my goodness.
And one of the guys was like, I was like, "Dude, you totally fucked me." He's like, "Yeah, he's down there.
I just saw him.
He's kind of one of the ones that put me on the bird." My mom freaked.
Oh, dude, man, I can't imagine, dude.
Oh yeah, that didn't go. The next time I got him on the phone, because I would call him like every 7 or 10 days. The next time I got him on the phone, and I was just like under my breath, I was like, "Damn you, Deborah! Damn you, Deborah! Damn you, Deborah!"
Oh, dude, that's freaking wild, man. What a wild story.
It makes me laugh.
Yeah, you gotta put yourself in their position.
Oh,
too.
God.
Hear that? Like what? No, that's your mom sounds wonderful, dude, and being there to support your guys as well. And
I know I was really proud. Like at first I was like, "Mom, what are you doing going there? What are you doing?" But truthfully, I couldn't be more proud of the fact that both my parents went down there, and they most of the guys that were there were banged up pretty good, but they were on the mend. Yeah. And they would go and see them and bring them things that they thought they could use or whatnot, and I mean I couldn't be happier about that. That was pretty, and I there was no prompting on my end because I didn't even know where I was.
I'm sure you got an earful when you made it home for Thanksgiving. After that,
it's funny. Point. I still, like, my mom will ask me, and it's a habit. I can't help it. Like, I am so programmed to, in a sense, lie about my my comings and goings on active duty.
Yeah, it's part of your job.
It was really hard.
Just not giving them the information that they need.
So I would come up with things like I would tell them I'm going to California. I'm going to be out of the area. I'm going to be in California. And my mom and I had this agreement. And I told her, I was like, ask me no questions and I'll tell you no lies.
Right.
And so eventually we kind of got past that, and we were just like, "Oh, how are you doing? I'm doing okay. I'm hanging in there. Whatever's going on." And I would share things. Obviously, I just wouldn't share.
Right. And that's that is what's so neat about the professionalism of that community and the special operations community and some of the agency communities and communities that guys and gals are working in. That they are truly, in a sense, kind of sacrificing a lot in life to serve others and to serve the greater good and to protect the country and protect the nation. And because nowadays it's kind of lost, man, especially kids growing up with stuff that it's, you know, they can get leaked out easily. They can leak stuff out on phones or whatever, and they just don't have that same mindset. And you know, you get taught a lot of that while you're in, you know, because it's detrimental to the mission and the guys and everything that you're doing and about. But it's I love that with that community and those communities, those guys that work in that type of community, that even later on in life, even in business or whatever else, you know, that dude's freaking solid, man.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? It's just not even
true.
questioned, you know. I mean, so it's neat. It's neat to hear that, and you know, a lot of guys that are thinking about joining, that's something you need to think about, you know. And
man, I'll tell you, it's like, I mean, I know times are different. I'm not oblivious to that, but there's still a certain degree of professionalism that I believe that should be kind of like part of the bedrock of, you know, if you're going to go down this road, you need to recognize that, yeah, you're going to have to live in the shadows. You're going to have to, you know, shun the spotlight. You're going to have to do what you can to put the mission first.
Yeah.
And that means, you know, somebody asked me what was the most valuable trait that my military time, my time within Naval Special Warfare taught me, and hands down, it was humility. I mean, that didn't happen right away. I mean, it took some time. It took losing a bunch of guys and recognizing what's at stake and realizing that, you know, it's like this is you know, our mission to protect our future is real. And so, like, that humility, part of that humility is also, you know, you carry that with you in your day-to-day activities, not just when you know, it's like, you know, we've all heard that, do the right thing when nobody's looking.
Right.
So that part of that humility means that is who you are. That's your innate nature, that you're just a humble guy and you just kind of go about your business and do things. And I like that. I mean, I've tried to, I will be honest, in this current day and age, it's terrible business practice to have that kind of mentality, but it is what in fact, you know, just, you know, with what happened to Pat and his Instagram account being shut down, you know, the thing that I was like commenting about, and I did a blog on that, was my nature is to try to be low key, and it's hard to do a job like this with that type of innate
if you want
DNA.
To eat,
if you want to be successful, it's hard to do that. And so I came
all the time.
I came into the social media scene late because
I remember you were very low key for a while, because maybe at the range you were kind of dabbling in a little bit. I remember even Pat in the beginning. Yeah. Because a lot of guys get out, they leave that world. Now they're in a different world where they have to show them, so they have to talk about stuff, and it's hard for them to make that transition, you know. It is
ridiculously hard, and that's the thing that I was trying to illustrate in that blog was, you know, as an entrepreneur, as a small business owner, you know, you don't have the same tools that like a Microsoft and Amazon have.
Right, big marketing budgets.
You don't have that.
No.
You've got to be creative and imaginative about what you can use to your advantage, and that means like social media, leveraging social media, and understanding how social media works. And I did not want to do that. I
remember.
I was resistant to
I remember
that.
For a long time you were.
Well, it took a while for me to finally come to my senses, I suppose, or just acknowledge that, all right, the times are changing and I need to change with them if I want to be relevant in this community. And that's, you know, so I'm playing a game of catch up. But my blog was talking about how, like, guys like us in this community, we're somewhat kind of like social media. We're like slaves to social media. You know, we have to try to play. If you want a seat at the table, you have to play the game.
Right.
And it sucks, but you know, other people will be quick to say, well, you know, it's a private platform; they can do whatever they want. I'm like, yeah, I know, but you know, that doesn't. Or you can go someplace else and do something else. You know,
right.
go invest in some other whatever. I'm like, it doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
You know, unfortunately, that's not how the game. You know, it's nice. Hey, you're over there on the side. You're sitting in the cheap seats. Stay there. Right, yeah. The guys that are in the arena.
And if that's what you want to do, and that's good for you, and that's great. They may have an Instagram account or something, but they don't they watch stuff, or they don't have any of it. And I'm like, in a way, dude, that's freaking awesome, man. Like but for us,
yeah,
you you have to, or bills will not get paid.
Trust me, if you want an example of what not to do, just ask me. Yeah. I will be happy to explain to you what not to do in the social media world, because I did it and I was like, fuck, that was a bad idea. And I kind of like stuck to my guns, even though I knew it was the wrong decision. I stuck to my guns a little bit longer than I should have, because I didn't want to openly admit that, all right, oh, damn it, this is the right thing to do. It was quite a bit of humble pie that I had to munch on for a while there. And so, we're trying to play a game of catch up, but it's all good. It's working. I mean, it's taught me a lot of things, just looking at how the game is played, learning, the field, understanding the rules, if you will, and then just doing the best you can to kind of play within the confines of those rules. And, you can only do so much, right. At the end of the day. And here's the other thing, like social media, what I tell people about social media is just simply an information exchange. That's all it is. It's just, it shares information. What people do with that information is the call to action. Whether or not people listening to your message, your information on social media actually takes that and comes to your store and buys a shirt, right. buys a pack of coffee, that's the social media conversion that we're looking for.
Right.
And so what we learn is that you have to have this big of a pile of people, because you're only going to get this many that are going to actually convert.
Right.
It's a small percentage. Like 3.7% of people are going to actually convert.
which is good, 3%. I think the average is 2.5 or something, So, dude, it is, at the end of the day, it is about, and that's when I, like yours and certain guys, Pat's, it's the pages of dudes that are doing cool, organic, just cool stuff that's staying within the realm of who they are.
Yeah.
Because then you're going to have valuable people that support you as well. And I say that all the time. Like, I would rather have, quality folks around me or supporting me or following me, whatever, than a million dipshits that are there to look at whatever,
Yeah.
So, and I had two people come in yesterday, a couple that live here, and they stopped. Every day we get people come in, and it always tells me, like, man, we like what you guys stand for. And we have made mistakes too, man, because it's tough in the industry. But you get that reassurance from the people that you meet who do follow you. Say, all right, cool, that's the kind of person I actually want to follow me, because we relate on some levels. So it's one of those things. I think you can have a quality social media, or you can have a one that's not so high rated in quality due to the people that are following you. And what are they there for?
Right.
What are they there for? Why do I go to your page? Because I want to learn. I want to see. I want to get motivated. I want to get inspired. I want to learn something. I don't just want to see how cool you are, how much you succeeded.
Yeah.
I want to hear about the times you fell and stumbled, and because that's where you truly grow.
Well, it's interesting because you hit it right on the head. People come to your social media because they want to learn about you, right? They want to learn about who you are and what you stand for.
And then how will that affect them?
Exactly. But what I see that just bothers the shit out of me is when people are fake and I'm not saying that everything is always roses on my end, because you've seen there's plenty of times.
Once in a while you have to dress things up a little bit.
You do,
man, and
but I like to try to share the failures and the frustrations that I go through, whatever they are, just because they're real. Like, everybody's always posting their PRs, like, just pull this crazy snatch, look at this, right? Well, they don't show the 13 failed attempts to get to that one PR, So
and that's what people really want to see. That's what I want to see.
I'm the same way. It's like, because that to me is like, okay, so you failed, and you failed, and you failed,
and you didn't give up.
Exactly. And then you kept working it, and then you finally pulled it off. Like, that to me is value. And so social media is a way for people to learn who you are. And if you're not willing to share who you are, if you're willing to try to, I think the mistake that people make is when they try to be something that they're not, or they try to be something that they think their audience wants to see.
Right.
That's where I think you get into trouble. Like, if you just kind of stay in your lane and you stay, again, one of the biggest traits about being a genuine person is being comfortable in your own skin.
Yep.
And that, that didn't happen easy for me. That took a while, but now I feel pretty good about who I am, and I can share that and be okay with it, and okay, who cares?
And you'll get those ones like, this, that, or other, and talk shit or whatever. And it's that's gonna happen, man. That's in any realm, anything that you do. Now, I just but most part, most people are really cool, man. I find that on Instagram, for instance, really cool people that positive, and I get messages. You probably get messages. Man, I didn't feel like going to the range there, but you just, got me going today. I got home from work. I saw you work today. I'm going to go out and hit it too. So, and I'll do the same thing. I'm like, man, I'm just not into it today. I might go look, hey, what's Jeff doing? What's Pat doing? What's going on over here with this guy? And I'm like, dude, I got to get my ass out there, man.
I'm telling you, it's so true. I mean, like, I probably, like, every time I have like maybe a second thoughts or doubts about social media, I'll get a message.
Right.
That's a genuine kind of like this person really was being truthful with me about, I was really, I didn't think I could do this, or I felt like I wasn't good enough to go out and do that, or whatever. And they saw something, read something, and have completely changed their point of view. Mm-hmm. And that, to me, like, when I hear that, I'm like, okay, all of the shit that I have to put up with is like wiped away, and I get to start with a clean slate again with a message or like a comment like that. That to me means the world. And so in the end, I think you're right that one of the things that we're trying to do is convey to everybody, like we're human, we're making mistakes, but we're owning up to them, and we're going to keep pushing forward. And so hopefully that inspires other people to do the same thing. Because, I mean, there's people out there that are on the cusp of greatness.
Oh,
and they just they just need that little bit of a push, sometimes a shove,
it's
maybe
like
even a smack.
That picture of the guy in the mine or whatever, and he's chipping away, and he's gone through that mine for 40 feet, and behind that piece of last chunk there's the gold, but he turned away and walked away. He gave up. He was right there. But at some point I think you also have to know when it is time to quit something. It's like, dude, this doesn't work. This isn't for me. This isn't. And I put a lot of time, money, effort into this. Where's the return? There's got to be a return at some point. So it's knowing when that, and that's holding yourself accountable, being realistic, and taking accountability, an inventory of yourself to say, you know what, man, I gave it my best. And pride too. And guys like us don't fucking quit. We don't want to fail. It's gonna happen, but we're gonna do everything in our power not to.
Yeah.
And so sometimes it is hard saying, man, I got to be realistic about this, and say, you know what, this isn't bringing the value that I hoped for.
Yeah.
Maybe shift that somewhere else. And it's the same in business. I would say you have capital. I got this much capital.
Yeah.
Where am I going to invest it? Where is going to be my return? Is it in marketing? Is it hiring new people? Is it buying inventory? Is it putting up a new back-end platform? Is it building a new website? So you have to make those decisions.
So true.
In life in general. Same with fitness training. All right, I'm going to go out and whatever, just deadlift or just do whatever. You might get good at that, but overall, maybe that's your goal. Maybe you want to. So it's also on the individual what value that's bringing them at the end of the day, where they're investing their time and efforts.
One of the things that I have that I try to encourage my kids to consider is like, what do you want? Like, what is it that you want? If you can't pinpoint, like at the tip of a tack, what you want, like if you can't be that precise about what you want, you're never going to be able to figure out how to get there.
Yeah.
To be able to achieve that. And so I tell people, like, there's a difference between a goal and a fantasy, right? A fantasy, you never really had any intention of getting.
Or a hobby.
A hobby could be that too. A goal, but a hobby's okay.
Hobby's okay.
Yeah, hobby's okay.
But the ones that will say, I'll see it in here. I talked to a guy last night, I work with some holsters with, and he's on that same boat. And I was like, if you want to do something and you're passionate about it and you really want to do it, you got to put a lot into it. It can't just be, it's a hobby. Like, you're running a business, bro, or are you running a hobby?
That's a good point. I mean? Yeah, so absolutely.
And sometimes it's hard because they have to have their full-time job. It's a guaranteed thing. I hear this all the time. I've talked to young entrepreneurs that are starting, and I did it myself. You have a good thing going. You're not really happy about your job, but you're making good money, paying your bills. You got your mortgage covered, your dental, and all that stuff's great. That sense of security's there. But you have something else that you really want to do. So you start a business, whatever that may be. You have to really want to do that to say, instead of just saying, I'm doing it on the side, to walk away from something that's good and guaranteed and secure to something that is kind of a hobby, you know.
Well, and like when you have the ability to be like surgically precise with your goal, what it is that you're wanting to achieve, you'll see the path. And then through that vision, you'll be able to determine if that path is good for you. Yeah. You know, in other words, okay, like you were saying, the difference between a hobby and a profession is that the hobby is a volunteer state. It's an elective state.
Right.
Whereas the profession, you're all in.
You're all in. The ships have been burned.
That's
bro.
right.
There's no going
you
back.
know, it's so funny because I love that. I love that phrase because when I left the Navy, at the time I knew about 2 or 3 guys that had left the Navy, and then like within about 6 to maybe, I think the longest was 18 months, they came back. And it's not like I had lost respect for them, but I always remembered that. Yeah. And like, okay, they went out into the real world and they didn't like it. Yeah. And they came back into the Navy. Yeah. So like when I left the Navy, I burned the boats.
You knew that that part of your life was over and you wanted to start a new chapter.
Well, I had to be, like, if I wasn't committed to striking out on my own, then right. I would always have as a safety net the Navy to come back to, and they would take me in there without question. So right. Like I remember my my CO of my last command, great dude. Like when I had to go and check out with him, it was probably him and the master chief. Those were the 2 hardest conversations that I had to have because those guys were like bringing it. I mean, full bore. They were not holding anything back. Oh. And in the end, I just, I was like, no, they're like, you need to do this. You need to stay in the reserves. You need to do this. You need to come back. You need to do this. And I'm like, I can't. If I do that, then I'm not committed to being successful right. outside of the military. And that was... Like at the time, dude, I dug my heels in. I'm like, I am not doing, there will be nothing. I'm cutting everything away. It'll be completely sterile. Yeah. And
I think that's where that part that we talked about earlier that's been inside you, probably since you were young, is that part where you are going down your own, like this, that what you guys are saying makes absolute sense.
Yeah. Oh, it was the right thing to do.
Right. But there's something inside me that's telling me that, and you have to follow that, because then you'll always be
true.
Like, you know what, I went back in, but I really wanted to do that. It's always going to be at the back of your head and always eating at you. You know?
It was. I will be honest. I had a young family, and
especially with that,
it was
it's
probably
a big responsibility.
My like, there were a couple of days, couple of weeks, maybe even a couple of months that I'm sitting there second guessing myself, like, oh shit, did I just make, because I've got a wife and a newborn baby, and we had a rough go in the beginning. So like, in the end, I stuck to my guns and I made it work. And I look back on those early years and I'm grateful for the experience because it really taught me a lot. I mean,
well, even as a professional, in a professional sense, from coming from whatever it is you do, your community. I know for me, my last job, I wasn't performing. I was not being the professional I needed to be for that job at that point, because I had been focusing now more on my business, and so my mind was not where it needed to be. I could have milked it out. I could have milked them both out for a long time, but I didn't feel I was doing my job to the best of my ability, because I had this other thing that was pulling at me. And that's when I knew it was like, dude, as a professional, when lives are at stake, when your responsibility is other people and their children and these things, but I'm not fully there, man. I'm not there. I'm there. I'm going to react, whatever.
Yeah.
But not fully committed now. I'm torn to do this other thing. So at that point I knew, I was like, I have to leave, Yeah. And I went and did Rogue and went same thing full, because now I'm like, dude, shit. I walked away from 6-figure job. Those jobs you don't get. They're very, and once you're done, dude, you're out, bro.
Yeah.
Like,
There's somebody else waiting to get in. It's I get it. Yeah.
It's political too. Like, remember you left. It's
yeah.
Like a mafia, dude.
Oh, I'm telling you, man, I run into that all the time. It's so funny too because like that type of mentality though is an important personal like trait to understand. Like knowing what you are fully capable of. Like that takes a lot of internal strength to pull and say, yeah, and I had the same kind of thing. Like I remember when I was doing a lot of work overseas, I came back. Like actually, I was still downrange, and I was talking with one of the other frogs that was there, and like I was doing the same thing. I was going through the motions, and we were out doing some stuff, and we ran into some issues. And I remember when we came back, we were debriefing. I was like jumping this one guy's shit. I'm like, what is your problem? And the guy was like, well, I don't think I could have taken that shot. I'm like, it's not a matter of thinking. It's like you need to take that shot because everybody else is relying on you to take that shot. Yep. And it was at that moment that I realized that I am looking behind me more than I'm looking in front of me. Like the guys that I'm working with. Yep. I was like, and at that point, I realized that I can't. It's not the same. I'm not working with my guys that I have an intimate level of trust with, that I don't have to second guess what are they doing. Are they covering down on their sectors? Are they doing what they should be doing? Yep. And once I had that kind of like we came back, we got that done with that debrief, and I remember I walked outside, and he was another old Master Chief, great guy, and I remember he came up to me and was like, I was pissed. I was really pissed at that. And I left the hooch and I was outside, and he came out to talk to me. And he's like, yeah, man, I heard what. And I talked to him about it. And he was the one who says, hey, man, when you're looking behind you more than you're looking in front of you, it's time to really rethink your priorities. And I'm like, duly noted.
It's a wise guy. Yeah. Stuck in your head.
Yeah,
dude.
It did. It really did. And I was like, that. And so that was it. Like after I came back from that like deployment, I was like, no, I just, and it's not that I wasn't in it. I just didn't trust the other people that were in it with me. Yeah. Like in the early days, oh, dude, those were fucking some serious trigger pullers. Those guys were all legit. And as the contracting world exploded, it was difficult to maintain a certain level of
quality.
Yeah. Exactly. And so and I don't blame anybody because
they got to fill roles.
They have a job to do as well. They got to put body, asses in seats wherever they are, and so I don't blame them, but like I didn't have to be there. Yeah. Like I didn't sign a contract like I did with the Navy that said I had to be there and put up with that shit. I'm like, I think I'm done.
Yeah. And, that's same thing, dude. The early years, 2003, 2004, 2005, great dudes, and the vetting process was I'm talking about contracting was much more stringent. It was if you didn't, the first thing we did went out was qual. If you cannot qual with their, that was the first thing. They didn't ask you. You went out there and shot, and if you're gone. Boom, boom, boom.
I remember when we when we went out there, we had a good crew, and the client came down and ran us through their qual, and there were only 3 of us. They're like, you 3 guys, pack your bags. You guys are getting thrown in right now, and everybody else is going to have to remediate. Yeah. Yeah. And I remember when the head honcho comes over to me, he's like, hey man, dude, because it wasn't the client that told us that, it was the head honcho. He comes over, he's like, you guys are going, you're in charge. And I was like, what about all these other, what if just 3 of us? What's going on? And he's like, we got to put you guys in right now. That's kind of what the situation is. And I was like, all right. But I knew that at least the guys that I was with were good guys.
That's the difference right there. It's being in those scenarios where, because there are times when it is going to be 3 or 4 guys.
Shit, yeah, dude.
I remember our time, I was working out, man, in the hooch, and the TOC called and said, hey man, there's a plane that went down in Istalif, it's just northeast of Bagram, and I need you to stand up some guys, and you're gonna go up there with an FAA guy to go try to find this thing. Right now, you go to the airport, you're gonna load up with the ministry. It was Ministry of Defense with the Afghan Ministry of Defense. So I'm literally in the gym, man, and I grab my shit, grab the radio, and I'm like, dude, who am I gonna take? Because I can only take 3 guys to get on the bird. The ministry had their guys. And I grabbed, who was it? Jag, Anvil, my radio guy, and Hippie. I grabbed 3 of the. I'm like, these are the dudes. because we didn't have a grid, nothing, bro. They was just we were gonna fly around and look for smoke, bro.
Look for smoking wreckage.
We did, so we get up there. And we're all looking at each other. I have a great picture. Everybody's all the guys are like, fuck. And it's Afghans in this. It was a Russian helicopter.
I love those things. Yeah, the Heinz. Oh, yeah, baby.
Yeah, it was like, and the FAA director's like, yeah, this thing's definitely leaking gas
you
and
think?
shit. Yeah, I'm like, fuck, dude. So we're flying around, and yep, there's the smoke. All right, cool. And no vehicles on the ground because it was literally like a 10-minute stand-up, dude. We grabbed our shit, went up there. And no vehicle, so we started having to hump to the crash site.
Yeah.
We see Afghans walking down the paths with wires and shit.
Oh, dude,
the plane,
man,
bro. So we're like, all right, we know where it is now.
Yeah,
we're going up there. And I told Anvil, I was like, hey, do a comp check. And he didn't have his fill for his kit. He didn't
have his crypto up to date.
Yeah, because it wasn't even his fault, dude. Because and this goes into another story. When that's kind of why I got out too, because that shouldn't have happened, and it was not on them. So I get my old, remember the Roshan phones?
Oh,
the
yeah.
cell phones? And I'm like, fuck, I get on there, and I call the talk, and they answer.
Call the quarterdeck.
I'm like, bro, send a team up right now, drive, because it's a 2-hour drive. I was like, we're not getting back on that fucking airplane. Due to the FAA guys, like, dude, we should not even have been on that. And I'm like, first of all, we're not even at a crash site. I want to make sure I got. So they're like, Roger that. We shot them a grid, and they started shooting up. So we get up to this site, and it crashed, dude. And we're looking around, and we were trying to find the black box. So they wanted the information. So. And it was a Russian plane. It was a Russian cargo plane, so it wasn't American. So
nice.
And I didn't know. They didn't tell. A lot of times they don't tell you the price. It's like just go there and get that, and that's it.
Yeah.
So we're looking around, and of course Hajis are everywhere.
Oh, dude.
Because they come out, there's nobody, and all of a sudden they're just coming out from
it's
under
like
rocks.
ants.
And
They're like ants.
It's like Star Wars, man. Yeah, dude, like ants. Dude.
It's like you step on a fire ant mound, and it's like.
Yeah. So they're swarming the area, and did we even have a terp? I don't even think we had an interpreter with us at that site. Fuck, I can't remember. We should have had a terp with us. I can't remember. Anyway, so we're up there, and we would always carry cash on us. So our was like, you always had to have $500 if you had to pay somebody off, whatever. And we're scouring, and it's starting to get dark now. Now I was like, we're fucking Istilif. We don't have vehicles. That helicopter's way down there, and it's leaking. And there's Afghans everywhere, and there were no hostiles.
Oh, yeah.
But you don't know what the hell. Most of them.
It's when you're on the frontier, it's weird.
I've gone to places there where it's like, even Taliban, you could be face to face. You look right. We'd go and you eyeball that motherfucker. You let him know, like, dude, I'm not playing and he's not playing.
Yeah.
You let him, and a lot of times they would respect that.
Yeah.
You're like, all right, I know who you are.
Yeah,
I know what you guys are. We're watching you.
Yeah.
I can't do anything to you right now because you haven't done shit.
Yeah.
I know you got the black turban, the black beard. You got that hate in your eyes.
Yeah, yeah.
Bring it, motherfucker. So you'd have to bring that
so
sort
true.
Of,
dude, oh my God. It's so funny that you talk about that because first, those helicopters, I had to do more rides in those things than I probably care about. And the first time I got like a call, like a buddy of mine, he comes into the hooch. He's like, "Hey man, I need somebody to run shotgun with me." And I'm like, "All right." He's like, "But I need you to grab, you need a belt fed." So I grabbed a saw and we jocked up and we went out and I remember when I'm walking out on the tarmac. He, again, very very low key kind of thing. I get out there and I realize, oh shit, okay, all right. And we were going out in the frontier to do a link up with some of the locals out there, and there's a lot of shit in the bird that's the important stuff. And I remember like. We get airborne, and it's a contract bird, so it's flown by American pilots, and we get up, and you're already you're in. People don't understand, like Afghanistan is at most of the places we had to go to were at elevation, and any helicopter struggles at elevation.
Oh, yeah.
The air is just too thin for the blades to bite into. So this bird is just like the pitch of that, the whine of the is like it's such this loud whine. I mean, it was so bad. And I remember I'm sitting there on the ramp with the saw, and we're kind of cruising, and all of a sudden, I'm on comms, and they switch. We're on our comms, our back comms, and the pilots come over and they say, hey, we're gonna have to kind of like make a small detour. And we were like, okay. And what they had to do was they had to actually turn and go downhill to gain momentum. They had to gain some speed they had to gain speed so they can gain actual elevation, and they were doing this like loop-de-loop thing. But what happened was the reason why they needed speed was because they were leaking faster than they could actually. So they needed velocity. They needed speed to kind of keep the bird aloft, basically.
And they're like perfectly calm. Dude, like, we do this all the time. It'll be all right.
So like as I look at and I look over to my guy, and he's on the door, and then he's right on the other side from where this like oil reservoir with a hand pump is. And so like the pilots and like they all like there's one dude on the stick. Everybody else is back there because to work this fucking pump is like a legitimate workout. So they have to dump cans of oil into this thing, and they have to get it into.
One guy's pumping, one guy's dumping oil.
Yeah, and they have to switch because you can only do it. It's like under hydraulics, so like it's hard after a while. You get smoked.
It's like cavemen.
It was so sketchy. I'm looking at that, and they're just absolutely cool. They're totally cool with this. Like
that's the stuff about that place that people don't realize how Wild West that shit is.
So fucking wild.
You know, not even funny. On the Haji side, but the dudes at the
what we did out there, dude. I'm telling you,
to make
like,
things happen.
Oh, I would have been UCMJ'd like 13 times.
Dude.
I mean, just the shit that I had to do to get done. Oh my god, it was so fun. I mean.
But it was fun because it is the way it was. Like the damn Wild West.
The early parts of it were so Wild West. Like I tell this story. This is a funny story. I tell this story because everybody will appreciate it. Like. We worked in an area where we shared like avenues, and we had responsibilities, and we had these things choked down so nobody can come in. It was like very restricted. And I remember there was this one dude who would just blow through the checkpoints because he was a local. He was educated in the States. His father was his father was a dude, and like
a lot of those guys left in the 70s when the Russians came. They had money. They came to the States.
Exactly. And
London.
so his old man was like somebody in the MOD. I can't remember what he was. I don't remember. It's so long ago. And so he would just like throw that around, and people were afraid because back then, I mean, you just fucking get shot. You know?
Oh yeah.
So one day he rolled through the.
You're not doing that at an American checkpoint though.
No,
not at that time.
We didn't we couldn't be outside of the wire, so we had to rely on the locals to do the checkpoints on side.
Right,
yeah, you know, so in our facility
was Ariana?
It was close to it, yeah. So when we got like this dude blew through one checkpoint and ran into one of our guards, like the guard was trying to stop him, and the driver just kind of like hit him and.
Get out of my way.
Yeah, kind of thing. I mean,
that's what they do there.
They will run. So I found out about that, and I was fucking pissed, dude. I was seeing red.
Because they're still your guys, man.
That's what I tell people. Like those dudes are protecting my ass. Like I will stir some shit up.
We had the Gurkhas and they were fucking hardcore, dude. They'd have their kukri. They would like not fuck around, dude.
If they broke that kukri out, stand the fuck by. Some shit was gonna get sideways.
And so people are like, you guys got. They're not Americans. I'm like, dude, I'd rather have these.
Dude, I'm telling you, when I got on the ground, that's the first thing I looked for. Where are my pipe hitters that I can go to? Like, where's I look for the Australian. Where are the Australians? Where are the Aussies at? Because they're always looking to scrap.
Yeah, Aussies are good.
Our own.
The French didn't really go out anywhere.
No. So this is what was so funny. Like
Canadians were good in the early.
They were, for sure.
Yeah.
So
and of course the Brits are always.
Dude, the Brits are always looking to scrap. That's true. They were always looking for
hooligans,
it.
Man.
Like they are total hooligans. They're like, hey mates, you need our call sign so we can come help you anytime? No, just call us anytime. So when this guy came rolling back, I told the dudes, I'm like, I don't care. Call me on the radio. And I was in PT gear, like I got the radio call. And I'm like, I grab my shit, and my
That's when it happens. You're in PT gear.
Oh, dude, it always happens in PT gear.
Like, damn, I was having a good workout too. Shit.
So, I think I was just getting done with the workout, so I'm back in my hooch, and I still have like my PT gear on, and I throw my jeans on, and I threw my pistol on, and I hear the radio call, and I'm fucking pissed. I'm just seeing red, and the dude that was in charge sees me, and he knows that look. He's like, what's going on? I'm like, I tell him briefly. He's like, all right, I'll jock up and go with you. And I'm like, we got to go now because he's gonna, he's entered already, and if we don't cut him off, he's gone. We had to run to the other checkpoint because we knew he had to move through that.
Yeah.
And when we got there, dude, I stopped his ass, and he knew his driver knew better than to run over an American because I would have shot his ass right then and there. And I fucking was pissed. And the guy starts to mouth off to me, and all I remember is I literally pulled the guy out from the window, grabbed him by the scruff of his neck, and dragged him out of the window, had him on the hood, and was fucking beating the shit out of him. And And my guy was like looking around, and like the crowd starts to form because they got out of the checkpoint, but I stopped them before they get. Yeah. So we're not safe.
Right. You're away from that area.
And our guys were like, my guy was going, dude, let him go. We got to get out of here. Let him go because the mob is forming.
The mob will form, and next thing you know, you get ripped out.
Dude, oh man, dude. So like, I finally kind of come up for air. And I look around, and I'm like,
oh, shit.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, shit. And then out of fucking nowhere, this metal gate opens up, and these dudes just come rolling out. Yeah. And they got their little submachine guns, and they just start fucking cracking skulls, and they form a perimeter around us. And the head guy comes up to me, and he's speaking to me in broken English, and he's like, "We've got you, mate." Or he was actually Italian. It was the Italians.
Oh, they were the Italians
were
too.
Fucking, they were like, man. They saw it all happen on their camera. Like
the Italian embassy was close to there.
Exactly. So they were watching all this shit unfold right there on their camera, and they were eating. They were eating dinner.
Of course, they're having pasta and wine.
Dude, the guy literally had a wife beater shirt with the fucking pasta stain on him.
Yeah, man.
And he just like he's like, man, our guys came and told us what was happening. We thought we thought you guys could use a hand, and they did. They pushed them back, and I kind of like, don't ever do that again.
You're like, just get out of here. And that's what's scary about even that city in Kabul or in some of those cities where we would go out one guy, two guys.
Yeah.
And we had a bus, dude. We called it the Bang Bus. It was like a fucking bus, dude, like that one of those white Haji buses.
Yeah.
And we bought a taxi too. We had a taxi.
Oh, nice.
As a kind of a cover car, but we'd roll around in those with just like two dudes, man. And go down to the fucking Chicken Street and buy shit, and
dude,
roll around and I always, things can change quick if you get an altercation there with the local. Next thing you know, you got 200 of them because, like I said, with early ants, they come out and then you could get yourself in some trouble.
We had like every time we had a rotation change, you'd have to do your turnover, and we'd go run routes, and I would show the guys, I'm like, hey, listen, man, if anything goes bad in this neighborhood, you need to collect your shit and get out. Yep. Don't loiter.
You gotta learn how to hijack. We always say you know how to hijack a fucking jingle truck. You got to get out of somewhere there. Remember the jingle trucks there?
Awesome! I love those things, man.
I was like, I want to hijack one just to do it, just
to
drive one.
Well, I mean, you want to talk about inconspicuous, dude? You can roll anywhere in a jingle truck, man. Dude, are you kidding? Yeah, oh man, so awesome. It was hilarious, and I would have guys, and I'd have to try to get it across to them. I'm like, dude, man, I mean, it's just a numbers game. They have more than you. Yeah. We had the same kind of protocol. Like we would roll really small because we didn't want a big footprint.
Yep.
And our philosophy was, we would get in and get out before things would get bad. And we had some QRF, but nothing that we really felt like Uber
could really
provide. Yeah, I mean, we knew that the guys would come, but it's whether or not they would get there in time.
And not only that, the politics. This later on in life, or later on in that world. There was a certain point where you had to get certain permission to go to certain places, and we had a team. They got hit. It was an IED. They got IED,
Ooh.
And we were the team to go up there and get them.
Yeah.
And had some Army guys. I had to lead the Army to get there. We had a convoy, and it was up in Wardak, and we're standing by, and they're like, all the guys are ready. They're fucking pumped. They're pissed. Let's go. It's our sister team, Broadsword 2. We're like, let's go, and stand down. We're getting more information from the uppers, and finally we said, "Fuck this!" And we rolled out there, man. And I was like, you know what? If I get in trouble or we get, so be it. I'm not leaving the dudes out there. And we went up, got them, and brought them back. So, and I would live with that.
Well, the thing about it is like, when you're out there, like we talked about earlier, it is the Wild West. Yep. There's a certain code that you. Like I tell guys, like when they're talking to me, he's like, I'm thinking about getting into contracting. I'm like, well, okay. First, if you have a good job, don't do it.
Yeah.
Like if you're still active duty in the Navy, or Army or whatever, don't give that shit up for that.
If you're home and you're kind of in between things,
that's a different story. I mean, because back in the day, you were making some pretty good coin.
The money was good. It was $1,000 a day and a bonus every 3 months. It was like for dudes that were coming from no money, from being in A5 or
hard
whatever.
To turn down.
I was like, shit.
It's hard to turn down.
It was, but later on, like you said, the money went down and then the quality
went down. Everything went down.
And then the politics. Ever since that Blackwater team had that incident, that changed. After that, it all changed.
It was tough. I don't blame those guys because in a similar situation, it's a Mexican standoff. That's what people don't understand, man. And it's like if they hadn't have fired the first rounds to initiate contact and get on the aggressive side early on, they would have been smoked.
They would have lost dudes.
They would exactly. They would have smoked them. Yeah. There's no question about it. And that's what people don't understand. Like I take a step back from shit like that, and I'm like, no. I'm not going to second guess people out there. I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt.
I'm too when it comes to, for the most part. It's the old saying, always listen to the guy on the ground whose I listen to. If I trust them, I put them there for a reason. I'm going to listen to them over a dude that's not even there, man. Yeah, he's making decisions.
Fucking back in D.C. or some shit like that.
It doesn't make sense. So it's one of those things you just got to go with with what you need to do, and that comes down to your own morals and what you've been brought up to do, it's part of your code. It's your code too,
that's the thing, exactly. So. It's like when I went down there, I kind of like revisited that code of conduct, and like I put like a line in the sand for myself, like this is it. I'm not going to cross this line. I don't care what it is, this is not a career for me.
Right.
So I'm not gonna jeopardize myself, my future, or my family for that. This is that line that I'm not going to cross. And I tell guys, you need to make sure that you understand what you're willing to do. Yep. How far are you willing to go?
And you will, unlike the military is good, but if something happens, dude, they'll leave your ass out to dry.
I tell you right now, man, dude, you have to, like,
you're truly on your own, man.
It's funny. I tell guys, I'm like, okay, here's how this is going to go down. You need to ask the guys. Because like you're in brief, it's like, okay, well, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this. Roger that, understood. But when I do shoot somebody in the face, how are you going to get me out of the country? Well, don't do that. But when I do shoot somebody in the face, how are you going to get me out of there? Well, you shouldn't do that. But it's like, you're putting me in a fucking meat grinder, and you expect me not to. I'm like, what's the point?
You have to back me up here, man. Or like you said, the QRFs, like you go to areas and something goes down, dude, you don't have anybody coming, man. This is not
you're
really
your own.
You're on your own. So when where are we going? When was the last time Americans been there?
Yeah.
We're going up into the Panjshir Valley. Like, what? That's where the Russians got fucking decimated, dude. Their stuff's still all over. It's a very prideful place. There's one way in and one way out.
When you see, like, that's the other thing. That's the other. When you start to see remnants of the Russian occupation, and you see the
Isn't that
burnt
eerie,
out.
though?
Oh, dude.
It's so eerie, and they're just everywhere. The BMPs in the rivers, they're upside down because the Mujahideen would hide up in the valleys and they would come mechanized units, hundreds of BMPs and tanks and helicopters. They just drop them out of the sky, drop them off the roads.
Yeah.
And they're scattered everywhere, all over that place.
It's scary when you actually see that, and you're like, damn.
It is, because like at one time there was a 20-year-old kid in that thing, and all these other guys.
Dude, and they got smoked.
They got smoked.
I mean, that was like required reading. The bear came over the mountain.
Yeah. Oh
because
yeah.
You.
And Charlie Wilson's War is another great.
I don't think I read that one.
You would love that one.
I probably will check it out.
Similar stuff as the Russian occupation, how the Americans were involved in.
But it's like it's impressive to see what a disorganized, disheveled, like underarmed, undermanned.
Right.
Force can do against a legitimate fucking superpower, a fucking superpower. Yeah, exactly.
And that was also the mistake on the Russians to say, we're going to go in there and just fucking destroy everything, and that didn't happen. They did kill a lot.
Dude, it was a massacre in a lot of places.
And it still continues. Like their policy was not just to kill somebody, but you injure them. Mostly mines and stuff to lose a limb. Because the idea, which is actually very smart, if that dude's injured, it's going to take one more dude to help that dude out.
True.
Instead of just killing him, so he'd become a burden on their society.
It's true.
So they dropped little dolls out of their
planes,
my
God.
And the kids would go get them out. They're still out there,
dude. Oh my God, like when we first got on the ground, like I remember the guy that.
Don't step over there, bro.
Exactly. Don't step off the tarmac. Why? Yeah. Oh, that's still an active minefield. What? He's like, yeah. Don't step off the tarmac. And you're like. It's like right there. Holy shit, it's like the end of the carpet. You're like, holy shit.
And then they put the little red rocks. I think there's one over there, one over there.
Well, it was always funny when, they were doing they had I can't remember what force it was in there that was doing the demining.
Yeah, they had a plastic face mask on. Like, that's gonna save you, bro. And they're down there.
Well, they got
the American advisor be off, like, said that the Afghan do that because it's their country, man. I don't want to see an American out there demining either. Train these guys and let them do it. You know?
I think they've probably lost enough of those guys that they just brought in heavy machinery, and we saw just when they started like those chain things that they would throw out into the field. Those things were badass. Yeah. You're like, damn, that would slice a man in half, and it was kind of cool. And every now and then, you would hear one go off, and you'd be like, well, I hope that wasn't a kid.
Yeah, and you see it, man. All the people with with 2 legs, 1 arm, whatever. Yeah. So it still happens, and it still is a problem. And then the DA going in there and tearing down all the crops and all the poppy and the marijuana, and it's one of those things like, and we took the director. I had the director at the time. We took her all over that place, and she had a very high price on her head.
I bet.
And what you can kind of see the side too sometimes, and that's what's different about somebody who studied politics or studied in university, studied in D.C. and whatever, versus a dude's that been out there and really
totally
see
different,
it, because you can see.
It's one thing when you sit there and you try to tell somebody politically, what we need to do is we need to teach them how to raise different crops.
Right.
Well, what the fuck is that going to do when a bushel of pot is going to make them 10 grand compared to a bushel of corn that's going to make them $5?
Yeah. Exactly.
You're like, why are you even? If that's
the best, it's crops. That farmer's
money.
Not thinking, this is going to get somebody high in America or in
they don't care about
overdose
that shit.
In London. They don't care. They need to put food on their tables.
So, it was a failure from the North.
Yeah, we'd go in there and just destroy it, burn it all.
Wonder
and
why?
Then guess what? Then more IDs would start going up. IDs was because now that farmer's pissed, or the Taliban would be like, you see what the Americans are doing? They're taking food from your family. Go lay this out there, and they would do it because they would get the locals and stuff to do it.
It's so true.
And you can kind of say, you know what? I can kind of see it. So I think some of our policies there were just ridiculous, and the Afghans in general, in my opinion, and going into a lot of different areas there, were very, compared to Iraq, I liked them, man. Most of them very humble, very nice, very giving. And it's just that you get that population of the bad that have the power to go in and shut the schools down. I remember a school in Herat we went to visit. The Taliban had gone and snatched the girls it was a girls' school on the way to school, and took the water guns with poison and blinded all of them.
I think I remember that.
Yeah, just horrible stuff like that.
Dude,
that
people don't understand how fucked up those people were. Like the type of the type of damage that they caused the population there. I mean, that was horrible. Like, I remember when I got on the ground and we're doing our first tour of the place, there's that soccer stadium. Yeah. Really nice one, right?
Yeah, the blue one.
Yeah. It's like
it still has the Olympics.
Exactly.
Signs on it.
Yeah, and like when we got there, they wanted to show us the grounds. It's destroyed at this point, but we went in there and they showed us the different colored turf.
Yeah.
And the reason for the different color was because, like, earlier in the week before we got there, they were stoning people.
Yeah, that's right. They were still stoning.
Dude.
Yeah.
And stoning them for offenses here that, people don't have any comprehension about.
No idea, man. And it's funny, too. I had taken a guy. He was a USAID guy, an older gentleman. He flew in, and I took him to, where was that? Somewhere up north. And I had Army support on that one. There was Army with us. And I was AIC. So you get to know the client pretty well.
Yeah.
And we're talking. And we're driving. And he's just looking around. He's like, man, I can't believe how bad this has gotten. I was like, you've been here before? He's like, I came here in the late 60s, early 70s, before the Russians got there, in a Volkswagen bus with his entire family, 3 children and his wife. They were tourists.
He's like, fucking kidding
me? Back in the day, Americans would go there.
I don't doubt it.
They would travel around in their Volkswagen, smoke weed, hang out, and he said it was wonderful.
Well, what's funny about that is, if you think about that experience with that gentleman, wasn't Afghanistan wasn't the only place that happened.
Yep.
People like Egypt.
Yep.
All the eastern side of the Mediterranean, where it's now just a shithole. Before then, it was like a paradise. It was a beautiful place to go. It was
collectively like an oasis to some extent. You know, I mean, it was
I think
vibrant.
a lot of the Middle East is like
it's
that,
gorgeous.
you know?
I mean, people don't really appreciate that. I mean, I haven't hit all of them.
And there's been times where, like you said, it was safe and secure, and Americans were going, like literally hippies were going there and hanging out in the mountains, smoking weed with their kids and stuff, and hanging out and loving it.
I'm like, yeah.
Now you can't. You go down there with your family, and you're a guy like the heads are all gone, bro. Like it's not happening.
I mean, like it's sad because there was there's like nobody really makes mention of it, but there will occasionally be a small report about a tourist or couple or family
right.
that
or,
goes out there.
Missionaries.
Yeah, the missionaries. Here's the thing about missionaries. They've learned a lot. They realize, okay, we can't do shit in here.
No.
We're packing our bags and we're leaving.
Yeah.
But other people that are not part of an organization have this idea that they can go in there and change the hearts and minds.
Right.
And first of all, you know, that's a noble gesture, noble act, but it's also naive.
Right.
It's incredibly naive because the problem is that number one, that's not your job. You know, I mean, that's the problem that I see with that, because we had that happen. We had news of this. It didn't happen. It was just like, hey, we got to be on the lookout for this. You know, it wasn't something that happened in Afghanistan, but in other areas, shit like this was happening where people were going in there and trying to like convert or make people happy or whatever, and they were, you know, they were getting held, getting snatched up, held as hostages, and you know, then executed or murdered or whatever the case might be. And so I was like trying to help. I was trying to understand why somebody thought that they could go in there and just through good intentions and happy feelings change somebody. Like you said it right there, you know, when you look into somebody's eyes and you see that hate, you know it right off the bat. There's no question about it. Yeah. What makes you think that you can go in there and change that? Yeah. Like, I mean,
it's not going to happen. Yeah, it's and I think that's a lot of some of our fault too with our foreign policy and some of the folks that we send over there. I remember people showing up with a guitar and a teddy bear. Young State Department kids are getting, and now that person's in charge of a certain area.
Yeah.
A PRT. Out in the middle of fucking Logar. Dude, what do you know about? And so we'd go and we'd have our guns and gear and everything.
Oh yeah.
And they'd be like, can we lower
Tone
the gun?
It down?
I'm like, dude, actually, you know what? They respect this.
Yeah.
They respect this. Guns. If you didn't have this, they're not even gonna talk to you, man.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's the only way to get across to people. Now, in the big picture, you know, and it does come down. I talked to Tim about the same thing in Africa. Is the security and the well-being of the people is based upon having a legit security force to protect that population, and that's what gets me today. Why here in America they want to defund that very principle. Our police, they want to defund that. Look at what happens when you do that. There's examples all over the world, man.
So true.
For these people to believe in that, I'm like, if anything, they should give them more money. They need more train. As you know, cops don't get to train, dude. They train to qualify once a year. Some of the SWAT dudes are lucky to be able to train, but these guys need more money, more training, and we need more of them to stop this stuff.
To that point, the philosophy that we need to defund the police. Like, first of all, I'm gonna be straight up. There is no systemic racism in law enforcement.
No.
There are isolated cases, and that's it. But you can also make the case that there are isolated cases in every fucking profession. So I fucking can't stand it when I hear people say that. All right, and like this incident that happened in Wisconsin. Well, you know what pisses me off more than anything is when people jump the gun. They're out there making assumptions
without any facts.
They're doing nothing more than fanning the flames of hatred because they are promoting this. They're like, oh, look at all this. Shut the fuck up.
Yep.
Let the investigation happen and find out what truly are the facts. Wait for the facts to come out. We have to take a step back, right? Because if that were to be the case, I mean, we're learning now, it's awfully quiet about what's happening with the officers involved with George Floyd.
Right.
But that's not looking like the narrative when it all kicked off.
Right.
We're starting to see some things that are not fitting the narrative that the media was pushing when it happened. And to think that where we're at right now, the incident, the powder keg that started it all off was that. And now we're learning that maybe the the narrative that everybody had at that time is not correct.
Right.
There's some holes in that narrative.
Right.
Yet we're now starting to see the destruction of our society as a result of that. So when it comes to defunding the police, the way I look at that is that there is, the problem is people want to believe that they're civil. Right. And they want to believe that people will go about their lives in a civilized manner. And I'm like, all right, well, that's again a noble gesture. But show me an example in history
where that's worked.
Exactly, where that has actually worked. And then more importantly than that, show me the cost in human suffering and loss of life. All right? If you're not willing to at least study history and come back and say, oh, well, look at what happened here, and look at what happened.
That to happen.
Look at what happened here, and look at all the loss. So your good intentions really have no value.
It's naive. It's dangerous.
That's the thing. It's
dangerous.
Not just naive. It's starting to get borderline dangerous, because what happens, as we know, when the criminal or terrorist element is no longer held in check,
right,
there's no reason for them to stop what they're doing, because I feel like there's some weird stuff happening right now.
Yeah, dude, I'm with you 100%. I think a lot of people are, and I think people are speaking out more about, because it needs to happen. Otherwise, we're gonna have a bad thing happen to our children and the generations ahead of us. So. Again, man, Jeff, it was honor having you, and to know the guys like yourself out there just still putting up the fight, still carrying their shields, still keeping this country safe. Awesome, man. So keep doing what you're doing, dude. Love having you, dude.
Yeah,
for
sure.
It was a blast. Can't wait to see some of your sketches. And thanks for coming in, man.
It's my pleasure.
I think the last time you and I got to catch up was, like I said, at SHOT Show at the Tun Tavern, the Marine Bar there.
That's true.
It was the last time we got to sit down and talk, man.
That's so true.
That was a few years ago. So it's we see each other in passing and the gym and stuff. So and you're right here too, man. So hopefully we can get together more. Well,
it'd be nice.
Yeah, dude. And good luck with everything you're doing. Check out Jeff's stuff. Jeff's got your social media platforms, and
I can't keep I never can remember the call signs or whatever their names are. So I tell people, if they just go to my website, tridentconcepts.com, I've got links to all the social media.
Tridentconcepts.com.
Tridentconcepts.com.
Check them out. And if you ever want to train too, man, Jeff's one of the best, man. So
I appreciate that.
He'll teach you how to shoot.
I enjoy that. That's a lot of fun.
Freaking love you, man. Thanks, Jeff.
My pleasure, brother.
Right on, brother.
My pleasure.
All right, out. Welcome to the Going Rogue with Wes Whitlock podcast.